Christmas series, this season, what I was trying to do is, you all know the Christmas story. You all know the Mary, Joseph, and how Jesus was born, the shepherds and the wise men. Basic story everybody knows. We see that all the time. What I was trying to do this few messages this month is to bring out some new things that we don't really spend time on, because we mostly read, mostly listen in Christmas plays everywhere about Jesus' birth and how it happened. But last week, if you remember, I was opening up a little deeper message. Actually, that is a much more deeper gospel. Generally, you don't really go that deep, but what I was trying to prove last time is, why did Jesus come? What is the purpose of Jesus coming? I know Jesus came down to die for our sins, but what was the theme there was, what did he give up? What did he give up to come down to the earth? That is something we generally don't think. When you come on a Christmas time, you look at Jesus was born in a manger, and there's a baby Jesus, and all that, we look into it, but we don't really look back and say he was there before. He was God. God came in the human form. So to come to the human form, what did he give up? So I just want to highlight 8 points in the message, and then today what I want to focus is that when we look at any greeting cards, a lot of people know about Christmas who do not know Jesus Christ, who never raised in the church. But if they know about Jesus' birth, Christmas, they look mostly from, a lot of people get greeting cards, look at the posters, and they look at the situations where they see, okay, the manger is there, Mary and Joseph is there, and it's you have cattle around, all that. So people get a picture thinking, okay, this is how it is. Some are true, like the shepherds in the field where, in Bethlehem, the angels came and told them to go and visit the baby Jesus who was born, and all that. But there are many misconceptions also in the stories, because people, assume certain things, like wise men. When you look at it, we see that the 3 gifts were given by 3 wise men. Whenever we see any play, we see that only 3 people were there. The three gifts are there, only 3 wise men were there. But that's not really the only 3, because there are 3 gifts. We kind of show them as 3 people. But that's not, it's much more than that, But who are these wise men? So that's something I will focus on today. But the last week, I just want to give you a highlight of the points that Christ has always existed with God. Christ is equal to God because he is God. Through Christ, though Christ is God, he became a man in order to fulfill God's plan of salvation for all people. Christ did not just have the appearance of being a man, he actually became human to identify with our sins. So when we look at it, he is 100% God, he is 100% human. So he became human so he can connect to each one of us, so to identify with our sins. Christ voluntarily laid aside his divine rights and privileges out of love for his Father. This is what he gave up. He gave up his divine rights and privileges for love for his Father. Christ died on the cross for our sins, so we would not have to face eternal death. God glorified Christ because of his obedience, and God raised Christ to his original position at the Father's right hand, where he will reign forever, as Lord and Judge. So those are the key points that last week we were talking about. Just want to give you that. So when we look at the history of the wise man, I want to dispel some of these things that are inaccurate. We looked at the 3 kings, and so some of those 3 kings, people have different misconceptions. Some people say they are like three sons. If Noah has three sons, if you know that they have Shem, Ham, and Japheth. There are three sons. They say that, some people say that these three wise men are from these three generations, representation of the Noah's children. Some say they give some names also in the history. Gaspar, Balthasar, Melchior. But these are the names they added later on. But these are not. We don't have any clarity on those. The Magi, which they call wise men, are also called Magi. They are unlikely three. There were three separate gifts, but that doesn't necessarily mean there are three different people. But Roman Catholic Church, they have some traditions. So they were following those traditions, like the three people, and then they were figuring out, they found some three skulls of three people, and they had put those things in Cologne Cathedral in Cologne, and some say they were in Cathedral in Milan. So there are different ways people look at, okay, there are three skulls we found, these may be three wise men. So, when we look at all these things, we may not have a clarity on exactly what happened, but one thing is why did they come there? Why did these wise men come to visit Jesus? See, they came to worship Him. That was absolutely clear. Their purpose of coming to see baby Jesus is to worship Him. In chapter 2, verse 2, it says, we have come to worship Him. See, that's their point. Even again in verse 8, it tells them, come back and tell me, when they come to King Herod tells them to say, when you see baby Jesus, you come back and tell me when you find Him that I too may come and worship Him. So the purpose here is that they want to worship Him. In verse 11 again, they say, when they arrived and saw the child with Mary, His mother, they fell to the ground and worshipped Him. So, all these verses come back to one point is, they acknowledge that King has been born and King is worthy of worship. These are the people who are not Jews. But they came from east all the way to worship Jesus because they thought He is the King, He is worthy of worship. This is another way that Matthew trying to identify the nature of the one that is born. What Matthew was trying to do in his Gospel is that Matthew is a Jew. When he had written the book of Gospel, the first thing he talks about is the first 1 to 7 verses, 1 to 17 verses is the genealogy. So he tries to prove that Jesus came from the line of David, King David. So he wants to prove that he is in a royal line. He goes way back to King David and tries to come back saying that Jesus' father, Joseph, is a kingly line. So his point is to prove he's a royal son of David. But he is also son of God. When we see verses 18 to 25, he was born of a virgin. He is created in the womb of Mary by God Himself through the work of the Holy Spirit. This is where because Jesus was born as a sinless man, because He was created in the womb of Mary by God through the Holy Spirit. And here we find that He is given worship from a group of men whose unique responsibility in their culture was to identify kings. These Magi, when we talk about, these are the people whose main role in their culture were to identify the kings. They look for kings. They appoint the kings. They are Middle Eastern kingmakers, they call them. So they call them because through them the kings were appointed. So they were given a very, very important role. So here they realized that He is also a son of God, and He is, so that is why, He had to be, they thought He is a kingly line and also son of God, so they want to worship Him. But who are these? Suddenly these wise men came into the picture. And so if we have to go back to look at the history, we have to go back to ancient history, beyond the church history. Because these guys, these Magi were there, Even some people say to even Abraham time were there. And so when we look at it, in the New Testament, in verse 1 to verse 12, they say them magos. There's another name in Greek. But there is an equivalent in the Old Testament in Hebrew. They appear in number of occasions as well as in Old Testament. So this magi is not a word that can be translated. It means like magic or magicians. That's how the magicians' name came in from them. Magi, they call it as a magical magicians. That's the name of a tribe. And they were basically priestly tribe, and they're very religious people. And they rose from they're priests that rose to a very significant prominence. That means their value, whatever they do is very highly regarded. And they were kind of talked about, they were in the Abraham area. And so not all historians, push back that far, but they were ancient people. They were when Israelites were taken to Babylon, captivity, they were there. These magi were there. And if you remember, like we did the Solomon series, right? I talked about when Solomon died, his son took over. And their kingdom has been split into two, northern kingdom and the southern kingdom. And the northern kingdom was called Israel, southern kingdom was called Judah. So this northern kingdom was defeated by Syria. Syria was a major force. It became a major force after the David Solomon was down. So Syria took over Israel, and this Judah was taken over by the Babylonians, which is the Nebuchadnezzar was the king. So they attacked them. They took all the properties and the gold and all that, and all the people also, a lot of people, all the wise men. So we see that Daniel, we remember like Daniel, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, they were taken from Judah to Babylon. So here, these magi, they were in the Babylonian area. They were there even when Daniel was taken there. So the southern kingdom Jews were taken in 3 waves into Babylon. So when Nebuchadnezzar defeated Judah, he came and took the Jews in Israel in 3 waves to Babylon. So they were there in the captivity 70 years. That's the prophecy of the Jeremiah. Jeremiah says that you will be in captivity for 70 years. So what Daniel was, if you remember, like Daniel was always praying because he knows that 70 years captivity is there. After that, they will be sent back to their land. So they know the prophecy. They know the fulfillment happened. So, what happened is they were kept in captivity for 70 years, and then they were sent back to rebuild Jerusalem and the temple, which they did. During the Nehemiah time, we know that the Persian king had sent them back to Israel, Jerusalem, to go and build the temple. So that's how the Solomon temple, was again built by Nehemiah there. So the 70 years had happened, and a lot of the Jews went back. But during the 70 years, when they were in Babylon, there were many of the Jews who intermarried. So they married many of the Babylonians and all that. So what happened is, not all went back to Israel. Because a lot of the people, they got married, they got settled, they got good positions in the Babylonian area. So a lot of the Jews, a lot of them remained in the Middle East in the Babylonian Empire. So some went, but some were left over. One of those remained was Daniel. Daniel was praying for the prophecy to be fulfilled, for the Jews to go back. But after the 70 years, Daniel did not go back to Jerusalem. You see that Daniel remained there, but it's Nehemiah, was the one who built the temple. So Daniel extended beyond his role as a significant prime minister in the Babylonian world, right into the kingdom of Medes and Persians. This is a lot of history, okay? I want you to grasp these things. When you look at the Bible, right? The Bible is not stories. Bible is real. These incidents are real things happen. These kings, historical kings, these kings are existed. These have like 80, dates where they lived and all that. So when we talk about, all these things, this is real history and how God moves the puzzles. This is how we have to see how the prophecies are fulfilled, how God is using people to accomplish His task and all that. So try to concentrate, so you get this crux of the, history and the way God works through. See, Daniel was not the only one remaining Jew, but there are many others who are intermarried. So some of the nobles, because a lot of the people became elevated to good roles, in the history in the Middle East had Jewish blood. See, when you talk about the current Middle East, right, which is spread across, it is called Babylonian at that time. They are a very powerful force. They are not, pre-Muslim era. Right now it's the Muslims are ruling it, but before the Middle East, the Babylonian was ruling that area. And some of the kings have also Jewish blood. That's what they said, because they are so spread across. It was the dispersion of the Jews into the Middle East that brought the message of the Old Testament to that part of the world. See, before, only Jews know the Word of God, right? The law of the land and all that. So when the Jews were dispersed to Babylon, into this area, what they did is, they brought with them the scriptures. And then they told the people around the prophecies of what God had told them. So, the Word of God had spread into the Middle East through these Jews, because they are connected there. In fact, Daniel himself was a prophet. Ezekiel was a prophet. And there are other prophets who ministered during that activity. During the 70 years when they were there, God brought the prophets, and prophecies were there, and people were coming to know what is going on, what God's prophecies are. And so we see that, whatever the history might have been prior to that, if we go back, we know that in Babylon, Medo-Persian Empire, these Magi were existed till the point of Jesus was born. They were there all along in high roles, high prominent roles. Most influential people, they had great power. And most historians would say they were Semitic people, that they were descended from Shem. Shem is one of the Noah's son. So they have a lot of power. They are a lot of influential people. And so the word later became corrupted to mean magic and magician, but originally identified this tribe of people who particularly were religious and marked for a noble kind of priesthood. They kind of made this magi into the magician kind of thing later on, but they were actually religious people. They were like priestly kind of people. Like the way Israel has their own priesthood, this religion has their own priesthood, and they were the priests of their religion. So they also have these occultic powers. They were involved in some level of astronomy and even astrology, which is kind of mystical partner to astronomy. So these magi, they were, they look at the stars, they do prophecies, astronomy. So that's the way these guys are. They worship the stars, the sun, all that. So their priesthood was also hereditary. They carried around bundles of divine rods to, they used different techniques to reveal the will of the gods through these mechanisms. So they kind of believe in certain uncleans of life, unclean animals like Jews did. Generally, Jews don't touch dead bodies. And so here they don't touch dead bodies. So they have a lot of similarities what Jews follow, and this religion also follow. And we see that in Daniel, book of Daniel in chapter 2 a couple of times, and in Daniel chapter 4, they were introduced to the Magi in the royal realm of Nebuchadnezzar. So we see that Daniel time, in scriptures, we hear this word Magi introduced. And Daniel chapter 5 verse 11 says, Daniel was named the chief of the Magi. The chief of the Magi. Think about it, he is brought as a slave from Israel to Babylonians, and these magi were the influential people there. And among them, Daniel, who is brought as a slave from Israel, he was elevated to be the chief of the magi. So these magi, we are talking about the wise men who visited Jesus. These magi were very influential people in the Babylonian time, and Daniel was the chief among them. So I want to make sure you get the connection where all these go back to. It's a Daniel who had a good relationship with these magi in that area. So what happened is Daniel connected to these magi in such a way that he communicated to them truth of the Old Testament, Judaism, and the promise of the coming Messiah. So it's a Daniel who told these magi the prophecy that what he saw. Remember, Daniel had a prophecy of 70 weeks, which talks about the arrival of Jesus Christ, at what point Jesus will come. So Daniel was telling the prophecies of the Messiah and explaining to these magi what is going to happen. And so, when Messianic prophecies of Daniel, other prophets, which Daniel would know, were revealed to them, prominent in favor, they absorbed them, and they believed them, at least to some degree, that they actually came to worship the King was born. So think about it. This is like 500-600 years, way before. But these prophecies were learned by these magi. And these are these wise people, right? So they document things, they spread to the next generation. So the people's word has been spreading that there is a prophecy here, is going to come, the king is going to come, the message is going to come. So that's how the word of Jesus' birth was been spread across. In Daniel 5:11, we see that there is a man in the kingdom who has the spirit of the holy gods in him. In the time of your father, he has found to have insight and intelligence and wisdom like that of the gods. Your father, King Nebuchadnezzar, appointed him chief of the magicians, enchanters, astrologers, and diviners. That is the role that Daniel had in Babylon. He was the chief among all these guys. He is in an enemy land, but God had elevated him to be the chief of these people. That's how God works. Because Daniel, if you look at his life, he never compromised. Even though he's in the enemy territory, he always prayed to God. He always shared his word. He never bowed down to idols. He was willing to die because he was thrown in the lion's den because he did not bow down to the statue. But he was willing to do anything for God. He never denied God. But still, God had blessed him. God saved him from lion's den. And God had elevated him to the prime minister role. And he was the chief of all these people. So there is no doubt existed about the fact that Daniel had told them and others, had prophesied that there was coming a great world king and a great Jewish monarch who would bring in a divinely inspired monarchy of righteousness and rule the world. So Daniel had made tremendous impact among these people. And when we look at when Daniel was thrown into the lion's den, right? It's not magi who thrown him into the lion's den, but it's satraps, it's the governors who plotted against Daniel to put him in the lion's den. But these magi, they were very good with Daniel. They have a very good relationship with Daniel. So Daniel was sharing everything with them. So this magi, they have a very unique religion. They have a prophet called Zoroaster, a very, very ancient prophet. In the modern Persia and Iran in Middle East, he established a state religion. It's a kind of pre-Islamic religion in Middle East, and it's the Magi absorbed it well. What they do is they have to. The way the Magi is, whenever they go to any other kingdom, they absorb their religions. And because they want to maintain the political and religious power. So that's how these guys are. These white people, wherever their kings are, they want to maintain the religious side and the political side. They want to have hold a grip. So they were kind of a hybrid religion. They are whatever to imitate, initiate that religion. So some of those magi who actually believed in the truth, what gospel, what Daniel was telling. There are some magi who worship different things, different traditions, but there are some who actually believed Daniel's prophecies and they were waiting for it. If you remember, there's called law of Medes and Persians. We see that in Book of Esther. We see these words, law of Medes and Persians. What it is their wisdom of magi is called the law of Medes and Persians. So this wisdom of these magi were taught to Daniel and all these slaves. That's their everything. What they know, the magi wisdom, is taught as a law kind of to these people. They control the judicial office. The kind of combination of Senate and Supreme Court, and it was among their ranks through which royal judges will come. So they have a unique thing, like the way Supreme Court here, right? When president appoint judges in the Supreme Court, what he does is he picks people from the circuit courts. There are different levels of courts. So they go to the circuit court and pick the best judges to the Supreme Court. The same way, these magi, they control their Supreme Court kind of. They are the royal judges. So they will be picked from their judges to the highest office. So they are like the kingmakers. They make the decisions. They are like a balance and check, like the way we have Senate kind of thing. And so they basically are the kingmakers. No one could be king unless they appointed them. So that kind of powerful people these guys are. So if somebody has to be a king, they have to win the favor of this magi. And so the teaching of these guys were the astronomy, mathematics, natural history, agriculture, architecture, and many other sciences. When you look back the education thing, all these things, a lot of these things came from them also. The magi, they are the wisdom people. They do teach all these astronomy, mathematics, history, and all that. So think about the kind of the role they played in all these kingdoms. And in Egypt, if you look at the other side, which is parallel, when Moses, if you remember that Moses delivered the Israelites from Egypt, Egypt has a parallel structure, similar like that. They have their own wise man who taught all these teachings. If you look at Moses, when you look at the Moses situation, he was raised as the son of Pharaoh's daughter, and he was discipled, basically scripture says, all the wisdom of the Egyptians. So the Egyptians have their own elite. Like the way Babylonians have their own elite, which is the Magi, Egyptians have their own Magi. So no one ruled without their approval. So these wise men controlled the kingdoms, and they were like advisors to them. So Daniel here, we see that chief of the Magi. It's amazing for a Jew, and Daniel ruled for 64 years, all the way from Nebuchadnezzar to Cyrus the Great, which is the Persian king. So 64 years from different kings, Daniel remained as a prime minister on the highest role, and he was a chief to the Magi. That's amazing God's favor to an Israelite, a Jew, to be in those kingdoms. So, what we see here is that during the 64 years, Daniel had shared the gospel, or shared the Old Testament, the prophecies of everything to many magi. Many people he come across that he was sharing. And why the magi got connected well to Judaism? Because they believed in one God. They are monotheistic. That means, like during that time, many people worshipped many gods. Polytheism was there. But these magi and Jews believed in one true God. So they have a common bond. They connected, there is only one God. And they both believed in angels. They both believed in demons. And they both believed in a deliverer or a savior. So these magi believed in the same way, like the way the Jews are believing. So they got slowly, somehow their beliefs were coming to similar parallel to where the Jews believed. They both had a hereditary priesthood, which was identified as a mediator between the true God and man by means of the blood sacrifice. We know that Israelites, before Jesus came, the priest is the mediator between the Jews and God. So that's why all the Jews bring the sacrifices to the temple. The priest offer the sacrifices and put on as a substitute for them, and then they offer to God. So the priest was the mediator. The same way they have a blood sacrificial system where these dear priests are the mediator between God and the man. So they have a similar structure, and each, that is both the Magi and the religion and the Jews and theirs, depend on supernatural revelation gained by the priests in the religion. So they both have this supernatural. They want to have a divine God's thinking. These Magi, they have some form of divination. They think that they get some divination and they follow it. They have a fire which they worship. They feel like the heaven sent them a fire, and they use one fire, take the fire from that one, and then use another altar to burn the sacrifices. So for them, the fire is like a kind of worship place. For the Jews, they receive revelation from God by the Urim and Thummim on the breastplate of the high priest. The breastplate of the high priest have those. So they have a revelation from them. So these two religions claim prophetic insight and therefore prophetic authority. So each had a coming Messiah. Even these Magi believed there is a Messiah coming at the end for judgment. So when they were exposed to the Old Testament about the Messiah and the coming of the Lord, it fit many things he already had preconceived. So for them, they immediately felt, is that what we believe? It may be, so they got connected well. Everything what the Jews believed about the Messiah. So now, as we come to the birth of Jesus Christ, there are further facts about them that we need to know. And when we look at the Magi, we look at them as really like benign guys dressed up in women's clothes, riding on the camels, as harmless deaths. We look at them like a wise man with all the dressings and coming on the camels, and because that's how we see them. We decorate them with all the costumes in a way. They bring the gifts and all that. But the reality is this: they came from the Middle Eastern Empire, from the historic Babylon Medo-Persian Empire, the massive Middle Eastern Empire that eventually became Persia and Iran, and is broken up into component parts today. So what we see is different, but at that time it was a massive empire. It's a Persia and Iran what we see here. So this Middle Eastern Empire was sworn enemy of Rome. So here we have a Rome, one side, western side. On the eastern side is Persia. So they both are like full of strong countries, and they both are enemies. And the middle is Israel. So they always fight. Rome was the massive monolithic power in the west, and this empire was the massive monolithic power in the east. And they gone to war significantly 3 times, in 63 BC, 55 BC, and 40 BC. In 3 times, these Persia and Rome fought each other, and their common place where they fight is Israel. Israel was in the middle. So when they fight, they are going to wind up fighting in Israel. So Israel becomes some sort of no man's land between these two massive powers, and that's exactly what happened. So they both used to fight together, and so the Israelites used to be crushed between these two kingdoms. When we even look at, like after Jesus had died and the gospel had spread, even in Acts also, we see some of those names like Simon Magus and Magus Elimas in Acts chapter 8 and 13. These are also, the Magi who are there even after Jesus' birth. So these people are there all around. So at the time of Christ, when the Persian Parthian Empire to the east is dominated by the Magi in their dual role as religious priests and governmental officials. So during the Christ time, these wise men, these Magi, they were holding a very prominent dominated roles, which are in religious priests and governmental officials. So upper house called Megaskins, which would be like the ruling body. So they have a ruling body, like a senate here. So they control they were ruling class, and they were also the priests. So they were the royal kingmakers in Persia at the time. Interestingly, they had a king, Phraates, who had recently been deposed, and they had at the time of birth of Christ no reigning king. So their king was deposed, so there is no king for Persia at that time. So what they were trying to do is, they want to try to find a king, because they are the kingmakers. They were the ones who appoint the king. So they were in the process of trying to find the next monarchy. These magi who are in Persia, they don't have a king. They were in the process of trying to find who will be the next monarch, and somebody obviously better than the one who was dispersed. So combine the fact that they knew the prophecies of Daniel. So here they were looking for a king. Here they see the prophecies of the Daniel. And they know that there is a prophecy of Daniel of the 70 weeks that could have calculated from the years of the decree of Artaxerxes to the very time when our Lord lived. So, see, when we look at the prophecy of Daniel 70 weeks, the 69th week is the prophecy ends where the Jesus have to be born. That means like 69 times 7 years. So they calculated from the time the decree was given to build the temple in Persia to the time that Jesus' birth is 69.7 years, basically. So they know the prophecy, they know the time that Jesus was to be born. So based on the prophecy, they started looking for that king. So they may well be at the time. Daniel would have interpreted that prophecy to them. They are without a king. They know they are at the time when the king is supposed to come. And so they head for Jerusalem from deep into fertile crescent, the Tigris-Euphrates valley in the Middle East. So they know the timing of the Jesus birth. So that is why they started coming to find Jesus. Because this prophecies, of Daniel, what he shared with his magi were communicated to the generations to them. And then they were following it, they were looking. Even, you see, the Jews know everything. Jews know that Jesus will be born in Bethlehem too. But they never received Jesus when he was born. But these people who are Gentiles, who don't know the God, but they were able to know the prophecies of Daniel, and they were reading, and they know the right time, and they came all the way there. So now if you think that there are just 3 of them, you were so wrong. They came in full force. They are not just meandering, isolated wise men. These are the kingmakers of the massive empire of the Middle East, the pre-Islamic empire. These wise men are not like just wise men coming there, 3 people coming there. Nobody would have realized the 3 wise men coming there. Because everybody understood when they came to Jerusalem. Why? Because they didn't just come with 3 people. They came with a massive, big time. They came with their oriental pomp. They came escorted by perhaps several thousand soldiers riding on magnificent steeds, Persian steeds. They come with servants and slaves and cooks and all kinds of craftsmen. They come with all oriental pomp and circumstance, and they show up at Jerusalem. This huge entourage numbering in thousands as they came looking for the King of the Jews. So when we talk about wise men, they came as a group of thousands of people there. That is why when they are coming to Jerusalem, everybody knows it. Everybody there, because there is a huge entourage. They came there. They came to Jerusalem, and then they went to Herod, who at the time is called the King of the Jews. Herod is called the King of the Jews at the time. That's a title Romans gave it to him. In verse 2, they asked him, where is he who has been born King of the Jews? We saw his star and we have come to worship him. Verse 3 says, when Herod heard this, he was troubled, because he was the King of the Jews. For him, from somebody coming from Middle East, with all these pomp saying that we are looking for the King of the Jews, he was terrified. He was panicked. I don't know who is this person. Because he had secured for himself the title King of the Jews from Augustus Caesar from Rome. But that what he got was a little bit of buffer between these two master empires, because we have the Rome one side and we have Persia one side. There's a small area which is controlled by Rome now. But the Rome, what he did is Herod was favorable to the Rome during these fights. So they appointed Herod to rule that area. And what Rome did is he gave some army as a protection to Herod, because the Persian attacked them. So here, what we see here is the king Herod, he saw a lot of these Persians coming with soldiers and all these pomp and all that, and he was kind of, what's going on here? He was kind of scared, are they going to attack me now, or what is this? Who is there coming for the king? So, when they say the reason we are here is because we come to see the King of Jews, but we saw his star in the east, and have come to worship him. See, not only are the natural forces working here, and biblical and prophetic forces, but there is a supernatural sign going on. Here Magi was saying, could this be the invisible monarch that we will crown? They were looking at, who is this person? Is this the one that we are going to crown as the next king, as the official kingmaker of the East, or could this be the one we are waiting for, the Messiah? So this is the doubt these Magi were trying to figure out. Because they know from Daniel's vision that the Messiah will come, in Israel. So, into Jerusalem comes this massive entourage led by the Magi to identify the king. Riding their fine horses, the kingmakers from the east, with their conical-shaped headers, it's a symbol of their power. They scared the wits out of Herod. They are on a mission to find the new king. So their purpose is to find a king. And here, Herod was trying to figure out what is going on here. So that's why we remember, like Herod had called the scribes, who are the leaders, the teachers of Israel, and asked them, who is this? What did people talking about the King of Jews? What do you know about in your Jewish scriptures? And then they told him that Jesus will be born in Bethlehem. So, but what we see here is, the Magi who came from the east, they came to find and search for Jesus based on the prophecies of the Daniel. But the scribes, who are the teachers of the law of the Jews, they told the Herod that Jesus will be born in Bethlehem, but they never went to search for Jesus. So that is where we see the difference between the people who are waiting for the Messiah, whose Jesus came for them. They did not receive him, but these people who don't want Gentiles, who do not know Jesus, but they believe the prophecy and they came searching for Jesus. That's the way we see these two types of people here. The other misconception we have is they did not come to the manger. When we do the Christmas play, we see the Mary and Joseph there, and the wise men come and give the gifts in the manger. That's not true. See, when what we see here in verse 11 is they came to the house. Scripture is very clear. They didn't say they came to the manger. So manger is where Jesus was born. But here, when Magi came, they came to the house. This is after Joseph and Mary and the baby have left the manger and are living somewhere in a house. And why, again, does Matthew include this? Because he wants to demonstrate that not only is Jesus king of virtue by royal lineage, because of the verses 1 to 17, but he is on the line of David, he is a descendant of David. But he wants to demonstrate that he is even viewed as king in non-Jewish world. That is why he was showing all the, expressing this wise man thing, because he wants to show that even the non-Jewish world believe Jesus as the king. So this is another way for Matthew, from the Lord himself, to reveal to us the royal identification of the Lord Jesus. So his royalty is recognized by Gentiles as well. He is the King of Israel, but he is also the King of Kings. And we see in chapter 1, Jesus deserves royal honor. He is the son of David. In chapter 2, in Matthew chapter 2, he receives royal honor, but not from his own people, but rather from those who came from afar, Gentiles. So when we look at Matthew chapter 1 and chapter 2, that's what we see there. So the Magi represent the first fruits of the Gentile nations and reminds us that God always had them in the heart. When we see that Jesus did not come just for Jews, but he came for non-Jews as well. That's why the birth, we see that the Jews and the Gentiles. Think about it. We would not have known the gospel. In India, we are all Gentiles. We don't know anything about gospel. But God let the gospel come to India, so we can able to accept Jesus as the Lord and Savior. If the gospel did not come, we would have lost. We would not have known. We would not have eternal life. See, that is where, because the God's love is always there on the Magi, on the Gentiles. God always used different ways to connect them. If you look at the moment, we see verse 1, after Jesus was born, we now know after Jesus is born, they are out of stable, he's out of the manger, they are in a home. That means when the Magi came in, they were in a home. In the days of Herod, the king, the Magi from the east arrived in Jerusalem, and we all know that about Bethlehem where he was born, and he was in a little town 6 miles south of Jerusalem. It was called Ephrata and then Bethlehem. And Jesus was born in Bethlehem, 6 miles south of Bethlehem, Jerusalem, because that's where the King Herod was there, that's where the Magi was there. So this Bethlehem was 6 miles down. It is called the House of Bread. Why? Because it's a fertile countryside which had produced a lot of wheat. And so that's called House of Bread. This town of Bethlehem rests on the top of a grey limestone bridge, more than 2,500 feet high. It's geographically, it has a rich and summited region. It has a very important history. Jacob's wife, Rachel, died in Bethlehem. So he installed a pillar in remembrance of her. And if you know the story of Boaz and Ruth, Ruth was married and she lived in Bethlehem, and she used to look through the Jordan Valley, the Moab area. So this is called the city of David. This is where David had, lived there. It was for his well of Bethlehem that David longed for the hunted fugitive. This is David's city. And the Messiah is born to be born as a David's son in David's city. That's why Bethlehem Jesus was born. Nothing happened in Bible just like that. Everything happened in Bible by prophetically and to be the way it happened. Bethlehem is a David city. That's why Jesus was born. When we call the bread Jesus, we call him the bread of life. Jesus is called the bread. He was born in the city of bread. So there are a lot of things you always have to look. When we take the communion, we take bread. We say this is my body. Jesus is always connected to the bread. And so when we look at all these, it just opens our mind so much how God orchestrated all this. Here, Herod, Herod is actually a half Jew. Herod is the king there, but he's a half Jew. He was an Edomite. If you know the Bible, the history, go back, Jacob has two sons, Isaac and Esau. And the Isaac generation are the Jews, and Esau generation are the Edomites, they call it. So this Edomite is the one, who is actually ruling now, that King Herod. So, he got favor from the Romans, and he appointed him in 40 BC to be the king of that Judea area, which is where the Israel was there. And after that, the fightings there, he took over in 37 BC, where, to be the king of that Judea area. And if Jesus was born in 6 BC, okay, just to give you some historical thing, and when after 1.5 years of Jesus' birth, 2 years of Jesus' birth, close to, he died. King Herod died. You remember that when King Herod put an order to kill all babies under 2 years, when these Magi did not go back to inform the king, why he did that? Because he knows that Jesus was not a baby at the time. And so less than 2 year babies, Jesus must be one of them. And when the wise men came to see, Jesus was close to 1 to 2 years age time. That's why he was in a house, he was not in a manger. So that's why Herod ordered to kill all the babies less than 2 years. So he thought Jesus would be killed by that time. So these magi had seen the star, right? What is this star? What is this star about? Many people say many things. They say it's Jupiter, and they say it's a meteor, whatever it is. But at the end, in Luke chapter 2 says, there's a comment in verse 9, when the shepherds are out in the field, and the angels come and make an announcement. It says, the glory of the Lord shone around them. The Shekinah glory of God appeared. The glory of the Lord shone around them. See, that in the Old Testament, in Hebrew, the word of God's glory is called Koshab. The shining, the blazing forth, the Shekinah. It is used to speak of stars in the Old Testament, of angels and men and even God. So, when you see the glory of God, the Shekinah glory, it will be bright like a star, like that. In Numbers 24:17, there shall become a Koshab, a shining out of Jacob, a scepter shall rise out of Israel, and Christ is that person. So, in Numbers, we see that prophecy that shining star is the Christ. See, this is further described in Matthew 24, and the second coming of Christ, the glory appears. Christ, everything goes dark and glory appears in the sky. In the second coming, that's what happens. When Jesus is coming again, the only thing what appears is no light will be in the world, only the glory of God will be there. It's blazing forth. So the second coming of Christ, the glory, the shining Shekinah glory appears. He reveals himself in blazing glory. And if you think here, this star, this unique Koshab, this unique aster, from which we get the word asteroid, which is a New Testament term, this own shining star, his star, not anybody's star. This star, what these magi were seeing, all these wise men are seeing it, this is not a star, that normal star. This is his glory. The star that accompanied the birth of Christ is the same Shekinah glory that will accompany the second coming of Christ. See, what we see here, the glory, what the Magi were able to come to Jesus, is the God's glory. That is what we see when Jesus comes again. Verse 7, Herod asked at what time the star appeared, Phino, that which lights up like lightning. It is used as a lightning in Matthew 24:17, a kind of blazing out of nowhere. So we can assume with all prophetic knowledge they had, and all the timing they had learned from Daniel, they were ready to come. So they've seen this bright star, they see something different, some special person was born, and they look at the timing based on the prophecy of the Daniel, the 70-week prophecy, and then they realize this is what it is. This is what Messiah is. So that's why they began their journey when there was in the sky something they had never seen. The lightning of the shining of the glory of God, the star that marks the coming of the Messiah. It will mark his second coming, it marked his first coming as well. So, we saw that the glory of cloud appeared in Old Testament also, when Pharaoh was attacking them, when, Israel was moving, you see the cloud of pillar, it's the glory of God. So this glory of God is everywhere. So when we see this star is the sign of the Son of Man. That is how we see that. Imagine you will see the sign of the Son of Man. The glory that accompanied his birth and led these magi is the glory that will accompany his return. They came to worship him. Pagans guided by prophet, guided by Old Testament scripture, guided by supernatural presence, they came to worship him. But the tragic thing is, the Jews, for whom they came from, they never worshipped him, and they actually killed him. So there are two possible responses to the arrival of Christ in this closing. One is the response of his own people. He came unto his own, received him not, or the response of those who were not his people, who came from afar to worship him and rejoiced with great joy. So these are the two options we see here. No middle ground. You either reject him like his own nation, or you receive him like those from afar. He came unto his own rejected them, received him not. But as to many as received him, to them he gave the power to become the children of God. His own were cursed. Israel was cursed. You remember after Jesus' death, many people died. Israel was cursed because they didn't believe Jesus. But his own were cursed, but these Middle Eastern kingmakers were blessed because of their response to Christ. See, that's what the whole difference is, Many times, as Christians, many people born in Christian families, they come to know Jesus, but they do not take it seriously, because we think like it's okay, we're going to church and all that. But this is very important because, the blessings of God is always, God gives opportunity for us to accept Him as a Savior, because He came to this earth for that purpose. If He did not come, we wouldn't have eternal life. All the Jews before Jesus, you need to always think about it. So many people have this question. After Jesus came, we accept Jesus as our Lord and Savior, we become saved. What happened to people before Jesus? Right? All these Jews who were born before Jesus, what happened to their salvation? All the people who were born before Jesus, who believed, they always looked forward for the Messiah. They believed towards the Messiah. See, that's why all these prophecies point to Messiah. On the Christmas day, Christmas message, I'll come back to these prophecies, how they point to Messiah. But they all believed towards Messiah. That's why when Jesus was, all the people who died before Jesus, they never went to heaven. They were in the middle ground. They were in Hades. They were waiting for Jesus to die and deliver them. So, when Jesus died, 3 days he went to the Hades. When he went there, he released them. So when Jesus had resurrected, all these people went to heaven. They were all waiting there. So they didn't, after Jesus resurrected, all the people who believed in Jesus, who accepted Jesus as the Lord and Savior, they go immediately. Absent from the body, present with the Lord. But not the people before. They did not go. So they were in the middle ground, in the Hades area. So that's where the whole difference of Messiah is so important for the Jews and for us, because they waited for Messiah and for this to happen. And for us, we are so blessed because we know the solution right away, because God had already paid for our sins. We just have to only accept Him. We don't have to go through all the sacrificial system, all these what Jews were doing to cover their sins. All the sacrifices, what they did is only to cover their sins. But sins were never taken off until Jesus' death. For us, He wiped away all our sins once for all. What we are going to do also He wiped away. So if you believe in Him, that's it, done. We have eternal life. So it's a very, very blessed people after Jesus' death who were born. But even if we miss that opportunity, then there is nothing we can do. That is why during this time of Christmas, we always have to be willing to share the gospel across, because once the spirit leaves the body, it's done. There's nothing they can do. And so, let's this Christmas, wake up call us to see that the whole purpose of what Jesus came down to the earth. Loving Heavenly Father, we thank You for the gospel. We thank You for the history that You have given us, that we can able to see that, Lord, how the plan of Your salvation and how You have orchestrated everything, that through the Magi, that we see that Your prophecies and Your will is also to these non-Gentiles, that they can be able to come and worship You, Lord. Lord, we thank You for choosing us also to be in the kingdom, Lord, for giving us that opportunity, that we can able to come and able to be a witness to You, Lord. Lord, we thank You for dying on the cross for us, that we can have eternal life. We pray for all the families here. We bless them. We take care of them, Lord, and let there be, let Your glory be present in their homes. And Lord, we pray that Your divine presence be with all the children, Lord. Help them. Give them good knowledge and wisdom. Lord, cover us, all our homes, with Your righteous blood, Lord. And Lord, people who are not able to come, we pray for them. And Lord, whatever the needs they have, Lord, we bless them. Lord, we also pray for Neil and Tabitha, Lord, and their family, as they were also planning to go to Florida for 1 week, and be with them during the travel. And Lord, we pray for people who were not able to come as well, Lord, whatever the sickness, whatever the needs they have, we help them. Lord, we pray for each and every one, Lord, and you bless us, bless our homes. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. And the love of our Father, grace of our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ, fellowship of the Holy Spirit, be with us now and forevermore. Amen.